Hi, this is Renee and Kent Miller, and this is The Augmentation of Man. We are taking a lesson from our newest book, The Acquiescence of Humanity. This is in chapter 8, and it is entitled The Austrafier. And we think that it's a very interesting lesson that pertains to today's events.
And provocative.
It is definitely thought-provoking. So let's dig in and see what this is all about. So we have...
What is the Austrafier? First of all, it's spelled Austrafier.
Not like ostrify with an O, but when we looked up the definition of Austra, it means the most southerly part. And then we checked in with our guides, and they said originally it meant the most extreme end. So you can see how those two relate, but what we're talking about is extremes here, and particularly polar extremes.
Yeah, so we do not know exactly who the Austrafier is. Again, we live in unusual times.
And these unusual times require unusual measures to redirect humanity's path. So we have to think outside the box here. We are, humanity in general, right now, to correct our path, we are being led through this odyssey of sorts. It's a push and pull of energies. We are being manipulated to a final destination where our course is going to be corrected.
Yeah, well, these readings that we're going to speak of come between, actually multiple readings, come between March of 2012 and February 2018. And they're somewhat in chronological order.
So what we're going to do is we may give some of the original message, and you can check on this yourself through this book. It is on sale right now on Amazon for $9.88 for Christmas for the truth seeker, spiritual seeker. And it is a wealth of information, tying the dots, connecting the dots between science, mathematics, spirituality,
and astrology,
and astronomy, astrology by default. But so
let's go with who is the Austrafier.
The first lesson started out in this was March of 2012. And this message was, Austrafier is at hand for many that do not want to partake in the coming events. So if we think of the Austrafier as someone who is causing extremes in polarities, well, in a certain realm.
It's one that has not been, but will be. And that was in 2012. It has not been. He has not been, but will be. So it comes from the other side.
So what we're talking about is a being that has never manifested in a physical form on Earth as like a human. They have the ability, they're coming from the other side of the veil. They have the ability to be either physical or non-physical. And so this may be a concept that may not be new to some people, but may be very new to others.
Yeah, he's always been there. Always been there, somewhere in the universe, but always been there, but unseen. And it comes at a preliminary action to another event that is happening. He quietly exchanges to himself the proper mode to given to the task on humans.
So he is talking to himself about the proper mode to, and the task to be taken to manipulate humans. Again, don't think of this as a negative. We often think of this as a negative. We often put people and beings, higher beings, in a box of how they should behave. This is to get humanity redirected to the correct path.
Okay, we're going to talk about where will the Austrafier rise out of? What is he coming out of a country, or is he coming from the other side? And they said he'll come from the other side. Now, what is the other side? Is that the other side of the veil?
And that is our assumption that that's what that means,
Yeah.
that he is somebody who's normally not a physical being. And it may be somebody who's incarnated here as a human at this time. It could be somebody who's manifested in this physical reality. We really don't know.
So in 2012, it said, our mentors told us chaos will be coming soon. And he's the planted one. He steps on the world stage of triumphant beings.
Triumphant
beings, okay.
So he's actually looked at as somebody who's held high and is able to conquer this task.
And when we understand what is really happening, what is really going on, the Austrafier offers us understanding and protection.
We had this discussion about what this protection meant, because it wasn't clearly defined, but referring back to some of our other lessons, when you have a level of understanding, you are more awakened, and that by proxy, because you are awakened, you are more alert to what is going on, and that is what causes a level of protection, because you're aware of what's happening. You don't allow things to move beyond certain boundaries because you're watching.
And we had gotten in 2012, it says November the 4th, the Austrafier will begin.
And so no year was given to that. And we will let you ponder that one. The lesson goes on to say, coagulate your thoughts into a diametrical understanding of the human events that will occur. Now, when they talk about diametrical understanding, when you're talking about diametrics, something that's diametrically opposed, you're talking about a wider panoramic view. So a wider panoramic understanding. We're trying to bring those boundaries out. We need to look outside the box here.
Well, they're talking about secularism. Secularism is amended on the horizon. That's worldly pleasures and non-spiritual events in our life. Unity will be separated by the masses. This is what interesting. Unity will be separated by the masses due to secular information given by the Austrafier.
So some sort of worldly events, perhaps information on worldly events, will be given by this Austrafier that will cause the masses to separate.
Yeah.
And it's a deception with a cause and effect. So let's talk about what cause and effect are here.
Well, what's the purpose of the Austrafier?
So cause is always your purpose. When you have a cause, you have a reason for doing something. And the effect is the whole reason why you're doing it. So in many times in this series and in our teachings from our mentors, they talk about cause and effect. And that specifically relates to the cause being the teaching, and the effect is the actual learning gained out of that. Now, the teaching could be from an actual event that happens, or it can be a teacher-student relationship.
Well, this is causing separation and unification all in the same sentence.
And so this Austrafier is separating the internal being. So is it the higher self we're talking about here, and bringing together the whole. And this is maybe the mass consciousness on a higher level. So separating the individuals and bringing together the magnitude of the whole, all in the same sentence. So separation and unification in the same sentence. So there is an ultimate purpose here. And we're being told also to observe the behavior going on in our world. So if I were to draw a parallel to other teachings we have received, behavior usually relates to levels of understanding. So if we see absurd or obnoxious behavior, that generally tells us that that person really does not understand the situation.
We're told you cannot stop the circumstances that are happening and that's going to happen. When we're told it's a trail of deception
That has to happen.
That has to happen, and it must take place to begin. They call it the lockdown, which is usually results in a disturbance of some sort.
Or comes, well,
to do with prison, but they're talking about locking down. So truth in all this chaos will rise its head.
And so as the truth comes out, we will probably, when we draw the connection to lockdown, which by definition means confining prisoners to their cells, usually the result of a riot or disturbance. This may be that the truth has to come out of this deception, and whoever's involved in criminal behavior may cause some sort of rioting or generate rioting or disturbance, and in order for the light to be shown on the whole situation.
Yeah, and
this
they
is
use
what
the
we're
word
looking at.
darnatiousness, which means basically posing the nature of mending, knowing latitude or understanding a structural collapse. That means things are going to have to collapse before they change.
So darnatious in this sense is like darning, it's mending and possessing the nature of mending. We cannot fix this unless the whole thing, the whole system has to collapse in order to start over and create something new and correct. And so we have been warning people for a long time about preparing for self-sustaining. That's all a part of it. We're not going to go into it with this one.
By February 2018, the Austrafier was at work revealing the truth of our perceptions. So the Austrafier is in play as of February 2018.
And so it is shining the light on what we perceive to be truth that is, and in actuality is not the truth. So we, have talked about in the past how we are being manipulated and all consciousness has been controlled. This event may cause people to be numb from the truth when it comes out. And also in another reading we had gotten that there will be a fair share of people who won't believe it because of feeling like that there's been some misinformation that has been put out there.
Yeah, well, they call it menosis, a threatening condition will take place to proceed the major event. And
so is this threatening condition felt by the masses? I don't think so. I think it's probably those that are involved in all of the deception and the control of consciousness.
Yeah, and so they have to move our character, our perception by force.
Yes, and so we are being manipulated, and our attitudes and our perceptions are being shifted to see the reality of what is going on here and has been going on here on this earth plane. And that is a part of our awakening.
What Renee and I understand is time to widen our parameters of thinking. That's humanity is time to stop and widen the parameters and to begin to look at what the other side is entering in the world stage. What is coming from the other side? And what the world stage, has it happened or not? So the Austrafier quietly exchanges to himself.
the
what he's
task
going
to be
do.
taken upon
That's right.
humans. So
No.
understand, and I would not view this in a negative way. This is to correct our path, to awaken us to the truth. And so, and part of that is our awakening us to also our own spiritual path. And so, like we said in the beginning, these are unusual measures being taken to reverse our course,
Yeah.
but in a positive way. This is the positive.
Once we obtain a wider understanding of events of truth, then the unifier or the unification will take place.
Yeah, so this is to eventually bring humanity back into a unified one. And this will move us into the universal consciousness. Now, many people think that we are part of the universal consciousness. However, we've been told by our guidance that humanity is one of the lowest, most rudimentary understanding peoples that exist in all creation. And so we really aren't a part of the universal consciousness in that
we haven't gotten
live
out of our box yet.
Right. And also we live under so many misperceptions that the truth really doesn't exist in our realm anymore. And what truth that there is, it's very hard to see because there's so many agendas going on and so many misperceptions that it's hard to tell what is the truth anymore.
Or we come up with our own expectations based on our perception of what we think we know.
Yeah, and that's all based on just our experiences, and our experiences as humans are very limited. So what we are able to see outside of the box is very limited also. And so this is to open our eyes to a new reality. It is shining the light on our perceptions, and these events are being created to instill a desire within humanity to reach for a higher truth.
Now, the last question. Who or what do you think the Austrafier is? We don't answer that. This is for you to figure out.
This is an interesting thing to ponder.
Yes.
So we hope that you have enjoyed this little discussion, and think about that. You may have to revert back to this lesson. We have many times because it's a fascinating one for us. Again, this is a positive thing and it's not to be viewed in a negative way.
Anyway, you have a great day and think about the word Austrafier.
And again, we'll run this special on the Acquiescence of Humanity, the second book in the Augmentation of Man series. It is a fascinating read. It is a new way of conceptual learning that's being introduced by the higher beings. We have added more of our interpretation to this book. We have expanded on the glossary to make it easier to read. You have to do your homework, but that being said, in each section, we've added our understanding, so you can go to that, read what we believe that message means, and then go back to the top of that section and reread the actual dictated channeled lesson and see how you think that might play out. And also for the first book, for those who have the Augmentation of Man, a study in Renaissance, which is the first one, we are getting very close to publishing a second edition through Amazon in which we can control the pricing on it.
Yes.
And we have done it in the same way. So we have added an expanded interpretation, an expanded glossary. So look for that. That will be coming up in the next couple of months. Hopefully we can get it online before Christmas, but if not, it'll be in January. Yeah. And that one is the basic spiritual truths
Yeah.
and understanding, correcting past
So
misperceptions.
this is for people that want to really learn what's going on and why it is happening.
Things that are happening in our world today. Also talks about some of the extraterrestrial presence and our connection to those beings going way back to the creation of humanity. So it's
So this is an
very
interesting read.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that, hope you contemplate what we had to say today.
And as always, peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment.
Take care.
Thank you and take care. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye now.